So in the next one or two classes of our virtual computer science sessions, we're going to be looking at operating systems. And to understand operating systems, we don't really use Windows to do that. We use another operating system called Linux. There's many different variations of Linux. We'll probably just focus on one called Ubuntu. So to try and make the next sessions run easier, if you can get Ubuntu running up and running on your system, that would make things a lot easier. And there's three techniques that you can use to do this. I'm going to show you one. One of our helpers, Thomas, is going to show you in the next video another way of doing it. And the third option, which we will not do a video on, is to use something called VirtualBox. And actually, you can see I have an icon on my desktop here for VirtualBox. If I'm not going to be showing a video on how to do that, because setting up Ubuntu Linux on VirtualBox takes quite a few steps and a bit of know-how, and can take a bit of time as well to download the the Ubuntu operating system and so on. So if you've used VirtualBox before and you know how it works and you know how to set up Ubuntu on VirtualBox, then I know some of us at the dojo have used it before, then you can go ahead and do that. That's actually what I will be using in the sessions, but I'm not going to do a video on it because it would take too long and there's too many steps and there's too many things that could go wrong if your laptop is not configured to run VirtualBox. So if you know how to do it, please be my guest. That's probably the best option. What we are going to do though is have two videos on two other options if you have never used VirtualBox before. One of them is to download an app from the Microsoft Windows Store, which is the preferred option of the two we'll make the videos on. That's what's going to be shown by Thomas in the next video. So that would be the preferred option if you cannot use VirtualBox. The third option is to use something called Git Bash, and this is the least preferred option, and it's what I'm going to show you on this video. So I would encourage you to watch Thomas's video, which is the next video in the playlist after this one, and I will link it down below. But if you have problems with that, then you can come back and you can do this. This is arguably the easiest way to get it up and running, but it's also the least powerful and least flexible kind of way. It's kind of a simulation of Linux rather than a kind of a genuine Linux experience. But if you can't do either of those two options, Git Bash is a very simple way to have something up and running quickly, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So we need to download Git Bash and install it onto your Windows laptop. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to open my web browser, and I'm just going to Google Git Bash. And Git Bash, that's the search term. And you can see here the very first result is this downloads page on the Git website. Make sure you see the same thing, git-scm.com. So we'll go to that, and we're going to download over here. It says download latest release. So it says download for Windows. So I'm going to press on that button, and it will start downloading, which is done now down at the bottom here. If yours doesn't start downloading, of course, automatically, you can just click the link to get it to download manually. Now, that's not downloaded for me, so I'm going to open that. And I'm going to, it's asking me, do I want to allow this app to make changes to my device, Git for Windows? And I'm going to say yes. I know you can't see that on the screen share. And now I see the license agreement, so I'm going to read through that at blazingly fast speed. I'm a very fast reader. And I'm going to press next. And I'm going to leave the default destination location for the installation. I'll press next. And it says, for me, it says the folder already exists because I've installed it before, but for you, this probably won't happen. So I will just say yes to this. Now, there's a few configuration options we need to set for the Git Bash installation. So this takes a couple of different screens. So on this first one here, select components, I would recommend that you check the additional icons checkbox. Here is the first one. So I'm going to press that so that we get a desktop icon. And then press next. This is fine. So leave the name here as Git and press next. Choosing the default editor used by Git. So we'll leave it at the default option here, which says use Vim. Vim is a text editor that you can use in Linux. So press next. Adjusting the name of the initial branch in new repositories. For this one, just say, we won't even be using this feature with git bash, so we'll just say let git decide. Adjusting your path environment. So the easiest way to do this, again, is to leave the default option checked, which is recommended. Git from the command line and also from third-party software. So leave that checked, and we'll say next. Choosing HTTPS transport backend. Of course, we want to use the Open SSL library, so leave this checked and press next. Configuring the line ending conversions. Again, we won't actually be doing anything with these things. Leave the default option checked here, which is checkout Windows style, commit Unix style line endings. So just press next. This is an important one, configuring the terminal emulator to use with git bash. So that's actually why we're installing this. We want the terminal emulator. So we're going to leave the default option checked here, which is Minty, the default terminal of MSys2. So use Minty checked and press next. And for this, choose the default behavior of git pull. We won't be doing anything with git pull in git bash, so just leave the default option checked and press next. Now for this one, choose a credential helper. We won't be using this either, but I would actually recommend, should we decide to use it in the future, just because most of you are probably getting started with Git, select none. So do not use a credential helper and press next. Configuring extra options. Which features would you like to enable? You can leave the enable file system caching and checked. The enable symbolic links is not checked, so you can leave that off and press next. And configuring experimental options, we don't want any of these things, so make sure they're both unchecked and say install. And that's all the configuration that's required here for git bash. So that's installing git bash. Git bash is actually a piece of, it's a software utility that allows you to work with Git, which is a version control software. You've already seen GitHub in the first video in this series, so GitHub is actually based on Git, but we won't be using this with GitHub at all. Completing the Git setup wizard, so I would uncheck view release notes. There's no need to check anything here, and just press finish. And then I'll close my web browser. And then if I look on my desktop now, you should see it too, because you check that option in the installation. I now have a desktop icon for git bash. So I recommend that you open that, and it brings up a terminal emulator window. So I'm going to maximize the screen with this. And you can see we have a terminal prompt here with the little $sign that allows us to type commands. Like that, echo hello, and it just prints the word hello out. You can make the text bigger if you right click on the title bar up at the top and say options and go to text, and you can go into the select option here and make the text maybe bigger. So I'll just say size 14 and press OK, apply and save. And you can see now the text is bigger. So that makes it a bit easier to see. There we go. So this is like a Linux terminal emulator as well. It is a terminal emulator. So it was called Minty. That's what we picked during installation. So this allows us to run various Linux commands that we're going to be using when we start looking at operating systems during the class. You can also run Python programs from here, and to do that, there is a command I need all of you to enter and run once when you open git bash for the first time. I think I still have it on my, yeah, I do. I need you to run this command here. I will put this command into the description down below. So when you open git bash for the first time, I need you to paste this command into the window here. Echo alias python equals wimpty python dxe directed into bash rc. You'll understand that command a bit more actually when we finish looking at operating systems, but for now, just hit the enter key to run that command. And what that will do is it will allow us to run Python programs. To paste into the window, you should be able to just right click and say paste. I'm going to close the window now, and I'm going to reopen it again. Maximize it again, and now I should be able to run Python. So now I have a Python terminal prompt here. I can write Python code like we've seen before in our online sessions. Some days I can't spell world. There we go. Hello world. So this is an alternative way of running Python besides writing it into files and then running it with the Python program. And to go out of this, I'm going to type in exit with 2 round brackets, opening and closing brackets. Exit is a Python function that will exit the Python console. There we go. So that is the terminal emulator option for looking at operating systems. I'll show you very quickly what Thomas is going to show you in the next video. I actually do have it installed on my system as well. Thomas in the next video in the playlist, and again, it's linked down below, will show you how to install it. If I go to my start window and I type in Ubuntu, there it is, Ubuntu app. There we go. So as you can see, this is another command prompt, and it looks very similar to git bash. I just want to make my text a bit bigger here as well. If I go font, maybe size 24. There we go. So this is a command prompt just like what we just saw in git bash. But this is an entire Linux subsystem running Ubuntu built into Windows. This is more of a proper Linux system. This is not an emulator, whereas git bash is an emulator. So this is the preferred option of these 2 options that you're going to see in the videos. And Thomas is going to show you how to install this in the next video. So for now, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.